Hi, so I'm a little behind this week, so I'll be posting several videos over reading week to catch up. To start, hi, how are you? I missed you too. Okay, now that's all the way. Let's talk about murder. In August of 2016, an altercation on private land amounted to the murder of one man, Colton Bushy. The aftermath of that has been one of racial division, radicalization of race, and complete ignorance of it. So the media represented the trial for some time as the Bushy trial, in reference to the deceased rather than to the murderer, Gerald Stanley. The media also painted a picture of the savage tribe of Indians descending on innocent white folk on their land, the white land, and the savages as attempting to cause harm, crime, violence, and abuse. In terms of portrayal, there's one obvious victim here, Gerald Stanley, a white man being subjected to savages on his land, a white man defending his land with a gun, a white man defending his family from savages. And then there are the jury, the ones who sided with Stanley, being all white, and of course, the masses siding with that decision. All white jury because those savages couldn't keep a handle on it and be impartial in a case about one of their own. All white people because white people are impartial, though apparently landowners often side with landowners in cases of property violations such as trespassing, so why not get some non-landowners on the jury to make it truly impartial? Anyway, that's getting into a lot of messy territory. What I want to talk about is the way that it was painted or described in the media. Canada is divided from the liberal to the right, and the way that the case was handled is this dividing factor. So many are angry at Trudeau for commenting on this case being a miscarriage of justice. Many are siding with the landowners, saying that if they were in that situation, that they would shoot too. However, the imagery that is painted by these news sources is that of the savage Indian, the Indian that does not exist in the present, only in the past. That is something that has been attempted to be overcome for generations. A headdress does not make an Indian, savagery does not make an Indian, drunkenness does not make an Indian. The language used in the media caused a clear divide from those that equate Indigenous Canadians as humans and those that think Indians are the problem. Without the ability to clearly differentiate between the two until these moments occur, it can be hard to know where you stand. People are yelling from either side of the fence about the correctness of the murder in this case, the correctness of the treatment of the Bushy family, and the way the police had treated a distraught mother that way because they had feared an escaped Indian was on the loose with a gun. These defenses are not defenses of our country, they are defenses of colonialism. It is okay to treat Indians that way because they are the trespassers. They are where they do not belong. We have built our country around them and built it in this way to overcome the savage and wasteful way that they had lived. By painting them in that way, Indians as trespasser, we are able to collectively agree that they are in the wrong, that they are the problem. This was the intent of the media outlets. This painting in the media is problematic as what is enabling those outside of Indigenous communities to portray these instances of violence against Indigenous peoples as defense or correct, or that the Indians started it. By enabling that belief system and by publishing exceedingly biased opinions pieces in popular Canadian journalism and as well as on radio stations, Canada's collectively allowing those objecting to the cry of racism and the voice to stand together. In the same way this media portrayal allows for solidarity against racist actions, it allows for solidarity for racist actions. This case is an example of something that can divide the media in two different ways and in two different ways can be interpreted. The possibilities to pursue in this case are endless, and right now I'm still too tired and too emotionally exhausted to get into every single aspect of it. But the important thing right now is the way that the media is being consumed by Canadians. On the one hand, people are disagreeing with pulling the race card because a group of people violated public property or private property. So now some laws in Canada are vague. The gist of what I'm getting at is that some people don't understand 100% what the laws are for defending your property. An example, in the States, you have the right to bear arms, and quite often that leads to a lot of death and shooting. But right now, in Canada, you don't have the right to shoot somebody on your land unless they are going to shoot you first. So, some of the laws that people are trying to argue for or against in standing in solidarity with Gerald Stanley, such as I would have shot too. If I was outside and my family was in danger and these savages came onto my land, I would have shot too, is going against what is actually the law in Canada. But some people are presenting information in this, or presenting their own understandings in very vague and different ways than the actual trial underwent. So some people are presenting information that was not even included in the trial, or arguing contrary to the trial, such as I would have shot first, being that Gerald Stanley claims that he did not even shoot. So a bullet discharged from his gun in the moment that it was pointing at... Anyway. So some are making arguments about what they would do, yet not equating them equally, in that, would you really shoot somebody in the head in that moment? Do you have a gun? Are you licensed to carry a gun? Do you understand the power of death in your hand and to be able to separate yourself in that moment to know exactly what you would do? Would you go grab a cup of coffee and sit at your table while waiting while a dead body was outside on your front lawn? Is that you would? Yeah, that's you? Okay, good. But the way that the country is reacting to this information is that of keyboard warriors, yet in reverse, yet authentic, because they truly believe this is the version of themselves that is authentic and accurate in this media case, that they feel that they would do these things, but yet they don't understand the trial in itself because of the way that it is being presented. So the presentation of this trial and the information within it, and the way that it is consumed by the media consuming masses in Canada, is creating such a divide that people are having difficulty standing on one line or the other. And based on the way that the trial went, there are only two sides. There is the side that Gerald Stanley shot a man who he thought had run over his wife for no apparent reason. And so he was defending his land, his family. And then there is the side that acknowledges the historical traumas that these people, the Indigenous peoples, have underwent, and acknowledge that alcoholism, let's even talk about for a second, just 1 second. Let's talk about joyrides, drunk driving in small rural towns, and the fact that in several provinces, maybe some, that's a totally normal thing that happens all the time, that people do quite frequently, because there's not a lot to do in a small town. Not that I would have any firsthand experience of, I don't have firsthand experience drinking and driving, but I do have firsthand experience living in a small town and knowing that in that small town, the only thing that you have to do on a Friday night is to go out and have a couple drinks and do whatever floats your boat that day, whether it be everyone's out at the lake, everyone's out at the pond, everyone's out, in the bush somewhere doing whatever. But that's just what it is. That's what your life is in those small towns when you don't have, living in a city, you have a movie theater. Don't have one of those. Living in big town, you have stores where you can go and buy CDs or clothing or makeup or anything at all. Small towns don't have that. And it's the fact that this is a normal thing that people are acknowledging. Well, some people are choosing to acknowledge, while some people are choosing not to acknowledge the fact that I don't remember the term, but it's people driving drunk in small towns, just like all the guys out for a drink. And that's a totally normal thing that happens, and it's whatever. And people are disregarding this because they're just choosing to look at certain aspects of it, while other people are like, yeah, no, I'm from small town X, and in small town X, we did that all the time. And that's a totally normal thing, and everyone's getting all up on these guys' grill because, they did this thing. And then other people are sharing stories of how them or their spouse or this person had done the exact same thing that these people just did. And instead of being shot, one example was someone's spouse that trespassed on private property of a family that they don't even know, and they crashed their vehicle into their garage or something, and the family came out and saw the person asleep at the wheel, unconscious and wasted, and cans all over the floor, so they picked them up and just put them on the couch and used the phone that was in their pocket to call their spouse and be like, oh, hey, we have your spouse here. They crashed into our house and they're unconscious, so we just thought maybe you'd want them. And the radical difference in that, anyway, getting out of hand here. So, media portrayal is creating a division in these two groups of people in the ways that it is presenting information is creating such a dichotomy that people have to choose a side as soon as the declaration is amassed. Even walking into university classes, you're walking into conversations of people specifying the information that people have overlooked. And it's creating such a pot of information and a melting of the way that people feel as a Canadian and the way that you're representing yourself as a Canadian and how that is affected by this and the media portrayal of it and how different you are from that portrayal. Anyway. This is a really long video and it was very hard and it was very off on a lot of tangents. So I hope that it made sense, but it probably didn't, and that's okay. Join me on either tomorrow or Thursday when I do the thing that I said I was going to do this time, which is talking about people and identifying themselves rather than being identified. Have a good one. Bye.